Hi, everyone. My name is Christy Turner. I am a Razor's Edge Advisory Plus consultant. I've been with Blackbaud 25 years, and I'm moderating today's session, Help, I Can't Find the Field, Cracking the Code of Blackbaud Razor's Edge NXT Data. We've got Stacy and Austin on with us today. Before we get started, real quick, I just wanted to share sorry, let me find it. I just want to share some webinar housekeeping tips. You know what, Stacy? I don't think it's going to let me share.
I think so.
Here we go. Sorry, guys. Webinar housekeeping. The audio is from your computers. So if it's not working, check to make sure you don't have a headset or something attached. Refresh your browser for any audio technical issues. Recordings will be available. It says 1 to 2 hours, but I've also heard that it might be after the third day. So they will be, all recordings will be available eventually. You can download docs on the right-hand side, and then obviously we're going to have the chat, the messages, docs, Q&A over here. In the messages tab, I'll put the Dev Days email. So if none of these work to help with the technical issues, you can email the team. And also Chrome, we found Chrome has been the best with this platform. So you could try platform that as well. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to the team. At the end of the session, we'll have a survey. Please fill the survey out. The top presenters win free passes to BBCon, and so we definitely want to share the love. All right, guys, thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Put a big note in the chat if you can't hear me or something, but we are so excited to be here. I am Stacy Cope, Director of Automation Services at Pringer Solutions Group, and with me is the wonderful and talented Austin Brown. Thank you, Sunshine. And we are here to talk today about cracking the code of Blackbaud Razor's Edge NXT data, because the data does not always look like what you think it does. So just by way of introduction, let me see if I can figure out how to change my slides. I did it. We work for a company called Pringer Solutions Group. We do fundraising, consulting, annual appeal management, and Razor's Edge database administration. And for the past 4 years, Austin and I have been learning about Power Automate and fundraising automation. And this is a list of some of our amazing clients that we have worked with to do some awesome projects that make their work easier and get them a few more hours back in the day. Real introductions real quick. I'm Stacy. I am located in Omaha, Nebraska. I started working with Razor's Edge doing annual appeal fundraising in 2011, and I've been doing automation since 2020 or 2021. I can never remember. It's like 4 years ago. So that's me. I love doing this and like getting Razor's Edge to do what I want it to do, right? So Shelby, yay, go Nebraska. Austin, will you do a quick introduction too?
Sure. Hi, I'm Austin Brown. I'm located in Southern Pines, North Carolina, and I have a similar history to Stacy. I started with Razor's Edge in 2012, and I've been working in Power Automate for 4 years. My favorite things are data cleanup flows.
Awesome. So this is a picture of us at BBCon last year. Carlene's in there, Shelby's in there. If anybody else is, throw your name in the chat so we can wave at our pictures of ourselves. This was so much fun, and we'll be there again this year, hopefully speaking to a packed audience like this about all this cool stuff that we're getting to figure out. So our plan for today, we're going to talk about what is a database, and then we're going to go into Power Automate so we can use that to look at the data inside of Razor's Edge in its natural habitat a little bit, right? So we're going to look at it a little bit closer to how it's stored on the back end rather than how we're used to looking at it on the front end in Razor's Edge. So we are going to go into Power Automate, and if any of you want to follow along and do this with your own database, you need to find a gift that we'll test with and find its system record ID. And when we get to that point, I will help you find that. But for a results matching mine, you were going to find a split gift from a constituent with a spouse and more than one constituent code. The connections we'll be using is Razor's Edge NXT constituents, Razor's Edge NXT gifts, and fundraising. All right. I'm clicking on the wrong screen, and that's why my slide is not advancing. All right. what is a database? So we all work in databases every day. Do we really think about what they are? Especially for those of us that came up in the fundraising world, we started out as fundraisers and started using Razor's Edge as a tool, but didn't really necessarily know the underlying what's happening right behind the scenes to give us our Razor's Edge data. So we're going to talk a little bit more about databases. Carlene, I love the gift. Okay, so this is my first experience of data, right? And probably many of yours also. Started working with Excel back in 1996 in high school, right? And it was very fun. We could organize all of our data in rows and columns, and it made a lot of sense, right? It's super, super clean. We have a column for the name, and we have a column for the sector and the quarter and whatever else it is, right? However, this is not a database. This is a spreadsheet or a table. This not really a database, right? Tons of data, lots of information, but not a database. Here we have a bunch of tables, also still not a database. This is a bunch of tables with data organized in rows and columns. Very helpful. JR and Susan, you're cracking me up. I was in high school in 96. So still this, I'm going to tell you, not a database. Bunch of tables, lots of information, lots of data, right? But not necessarily a database. Here we have three-dimensional storage of data with join tables, and this one is the first one that is, in fact, a database. This is called a relational database, and I love these, right? So the first time I saw one of these, I thought these were cool, and I thought it was so interesting, right? Because it helps you store more data and keep it organized in a better way. So the way this works is we have things that you'll notice are unique, right? We have this tag number, and the tag number in this table is connected to the tag number in this table. So if we wanted to know how tall Fido was, we could use this tag to follow back to this other table and say, oh, he's 15 inches high, right? So this is a real database, and at its core, this is how Razor's Edge works. This is obviously very simplified, but it is a database. So here's Razor's Edge. It kind of has two sides. There's the graphical user interface, which is database view that we know and love, right? And has a lot of things other than, you'll notice you do not see a lot of tables with rows and columns in Razor's Edge, right? Because it is organizing the data into views that are make a little bit more sense to our human brains. And we also have, so we have the old database view, we have new web view, soon to be unified view, soon to be the only thing in the world. And then the underlying data that is stored in tables that probably isn't very pretty. I don't actually know what it looks like. This is just a sample image from the internet. This is not really Razor's Edge either. But, you know, it's a lot more ones and zeros. And all those, you know, the charts and the tables and the list and the rows and all of that with lots of IDs and lots of numbers. So let's talk about real quick how Razor's Edge works. So we have the graphical user interface, and it's pulling data from many different tables into the same screen so we can see it in a way that makes sense. So this is a gift. It lives on the gifts table in Razor's Edge. So let's say, for the sake of argument, that the gifts table has a gift ID, which we don't even see here, but we have an amount that shows up here. We have a gift date that shows up here. We don't have the donor name is showing up here, but that is not on the gifts table at all, right? We only see an ID. Same with fund and campaign, right? We don't see any helpful information, human readable information. We see numbers here that link us to other tables. So if we wanted to find the constituent's name, we have to use the constituent ID to go to the constituents table and grab the name and throw it up here. Same with funds and campaigns. We have to use the campaign ID to go to the campaigns table and find out that campaign 1 has a description of annual appeal, and then we'll put that over here. Make sense? I assume it does. Carlene, thank you for posting the link to the database view shirt. If any of you don't have that, go grab that. So Power Automate practice, what we're going to do today is we're going to start from a gift record, and we're going to look at the data that we get out in Power Automate, and we're going to figure out how to get the fund name, the donor's name, the donor's constituent codes, and the spouse name and deceased status. So we're going to use one gift to go and find all of those things. Austin, I need a minute to stop sharing. Can anyone tell a joke or something for me for 1 minute while I find my next screen.
You gave me no preparation for this.
I know, I'm sorry.
I don't have jokes.
I realized while I was talking that I had closed one of the screens that I need, so I need like a minute to find the gift that I need.
Oh, Carlene's gonna fill in for the joke.
Oh, thank you. Oh yes, Carlene.
Oh, Shelby, I'm an awkward person. Jokes are not my forte.
Christy, if you have any jokes, jump on stage. Yes, best database manager walks into a bar joke. I will give you a high five. Also, my
And
I will
Stacey's bookshelves change based on the time of year, so it's not always like this. Sometimes you just get on a call with her, and her books are totally changed.
I was just going to say I have the database shirt too.
Nice.
Ken Eaton.
That's a pretty good one.
Thank you all for filling in for me while and my Razor's Edge is not loading, so you got to give me a second because now I'm taking forever to do that. But I'm really close.
Oh man, sunshine. That just gives me heart palpitations. Oh Lord.
Me with your good jokes. I'm not getting to the stuff that I was supposed to be trying to get to.
Stacey, focus.
Okay. All right. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm about to share my screen and I will not be able to see the chat anymore. So Austin, please interrupt me if.
Yes. And if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. That will help us know that we need to answer a question. The chat is moving quite quickly.
Okay. Can you all see my Razor's Edge with a gift from Temperance Sawicki?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so for our demonstration today, I would like you to all go to your Razor's Edge, or you can just watch me do this if you want. But if you want to try it out, go to your Razor's Edge and find a gift. And you're going to need this gift ID. This is the gift system record ID. You can find this in database view in the properties of the gift, or you can find it in web view in the URL of the gift. So my gift system record ID is 59888. So that's what we're going to use to test with today. So I am going to go to my Power Automate and I'm going to do a new flow. And like I usually do when I'm building a new flow, I will start with manually triggered flows, just in case I don't like it, it doesn't start like running every day or something silly. So we're going to do a new manual flow. And we also talked a little bit about this yesterday, but Stacey is attempting to make herself use New Designer. I am most of the time totally with all y'all that are saying it's ridiculous and we're not going to do it. So no judgment here. I'm going to attempt New Designer today, but although when I was practicing this, it actually at one point just flipped me to Old Designer anyway. So I don't know. We'll see what happens here.
I'm so proud of you for trying this because like I'm still on the like, nope, not gonna do it side.
Kudos to Haley Giuseppe. She convinced me to do it because there's actually some stuff that's pretty good in here. There's also some dumb stuff. Like, yeah, change is hard. I don't like it. So, all right. So first thing we want to do is we're going to get a gift with that gift ID that we had, 59888. So Austin also mentioned this yesterday that we do this totally differently. So I know the name of the action that I want to put in my Power Automate flow, and I search for that instead of searching first for the connector and then for the action. Totally works both ways, but I'm going to do it my way because it's what I'm used to. So what I want to start with today is get a gift, because I want to see what the data looks like when I go get this gift that I'm used to looking at like this, right? So we're going to do get a gift. And what I do is I know this is the name of the action in the Blackbaud NXT gifts connector. And so I type that in. And then if I go to premium, it usually pops up somewhere near the top. So this is my NXT gifts connector, and I'm going to grab get a gift. And then I'm just going to type 59888 right here. And we are going to save this little guy. and run it, because the whole point that I want to do here today is show you what the data looks like when it comes out of Power Automate compared to what it looks like in Razor's Edge. So let's just go ahead and save and test and run it and see what we get. So this is done. Old designer people are going to not be a fan of the way this looks. So the outputs are kind of hidden in this weird little table down here where you can see even less of it in this view than you can in old designer. So it's kind of a drag. But in both places, I do like to use this show raw outputs button, because then I can see it kind of opened up over here. So highly recommended that if you're looking at outputs. Now, I'm not a computer. I'm not a programmer. I am a Razor's Edge person who decided that she could potentially figure this out. So if I can do this, any of you can do this. And that's kind of the point of this session. I want you to look at this data and realize you know what it is, right? It looks like madness when you first look at it, and I don't want you to freak out about that. I want you to say, oh yeah, this is stuff I recognize. So let's start out and look at this. So this stuff at the top, also definitely madness, right? None of this means anything to me, and I do not know what it is. So it always shows up there. There's headers, there's numbers and letters. I don't know what it is. We're going to ignore the stuff that we don't know what it is for now, because we don't need it for the purposes of what we're doing with Razor's Edge work. We're going to look for the body, and we're going to just scan this little guy for stuff that starts to make sense to us, right? So here's 59888, which I know is the gift ID because I typed it in and said that's the gift I want, right? And then we're going to keep reading and see that we see things that make sense, right? So acknowledgements, I know where that is on my Razor's Edge record, right? It's just right over here. And it says needs acknowledgement here. It says needs acknowledgement here. If you're looking at this gift in database view, it's going to say not acknowledged. We know what all of those things are, right? And it's weird that they're different, but still we know what this is. Here's the gift amount. Here's the constituent ID. Here's the date. So let's talk about those things that we wanted to find. I want to find the fund names. I want to find the donor name. I want to find the donor's constituent codes, and then I want to find more about the donor spouse. So let's see what we can get from this gift, because on this page, we can see the donor's name, we can see the fund names, we can see lots of things, right? We can't see the spouse, but we know how to get to it, right? We click on the donor, and then we'll be able to see the spouse. Let's do that just for fun and let that load in the background. Okay, so let's start off by looking for the constituent name. If I maybe do Control F and search for constituent, let's see what we find. So I have constituent ID, constituent ID, constituent ID, and there is no constituent name anywhere in this data, right? So we're going to have to do some things to get that. Let's find constituency, because I know it's called constituency. So we know constituency is right here, but remember, this is a gift record. So this is going to have the gift constituency, and it might not be what we want for the donor's constituent codes, right? So we're clearly going to have to look more stuff up there. And spouse, there is nothing at all. We can't find any spouse information. And let's see what we can get for fund. So the fund, Razors, and we have fund IDs here, but no fund name, right? So we're going to just work through this. We have IDs that send us to other tables to get the other information that we need, right? Not rocket science, but we have to do it, right? It doesn't just all show up for us the way that it does here in this project. So let's keep moving. Let me look at my list to make sure I'm doing things in the right order. All right, so we're going to edit this and we're going to get a fund. And this is the same thing. The action is called get a fund. So I'll type that in and I'll click premium, and it's going to send me to the Razor's Edge NXT fundraising connector, and I will click the get a fund action. And it's going to ask me for the system record ID of the fund to get. Now we know from our data, when we got our gift, what our gift fund IDs were, right? They were in there and I did not write them down. But what we're going to do here is we're going to use the dynamic content in Power Automate, which also gives us all the data from this gift that we can use later in our flow. So if we have get a gift, here's our get a gift data, and we can use this by clicking that lightning bolt to get any of the data from get a gift. and put that later on in our flow. So what we want here is fund ID. And I meant to talk more about how the funds appeared, and I did not. So we're going to just come back to that after we run this. But as a quick explanation, you'll notice when I add my gift splits fund ID to the get a fund, it automatically created this little for each box, which means that gift splits is an array that has at least one thing in it, maybe more. And in this case, we know it has two because our gift has two funds, right? So Power Automate knows that gift splits are an array and has a bunch of stuff in it. So we're going to get a fund, and as a way to write down what we're finding, we're going to use the compose action, which I use all the time just to actually write stuff down so I can see what it is. And now, since we have that get a fund action in here, we have dynamic content for the fund, and we can put the description, which is the display name, into this compose so we can spit it out. So let's test this, and we'll talk through what this data looks like on the other side. And we have to wait for it to save. And it'll probably save super, super slow. Okay.
While that's running, we have a question in the chat.
Okay.
Do you use the gift split fund ID even if there's only one fund for a gift?
Great question. Yes, you do. And I will show you why. So let's look at get a gift. So, show raw outputs. So if we look at those gift splits, so they're right here. And the way this always comes out in Razor's Edge, no matter how many gift splits there are, is it always comes out as an array. So an array in this JSON code is surrounded by square brackets. So gift splits always is an array, and it'll have 0 to a zillion things in it. So it'll always have, gift splits will always have square brackets inside of it, and then it'll have usually one or more of these objects that include the fund, campaign, etc. information. These gifts don't happen to have campaigns or appeals, but that's what happens there. So yes, you will always use the gift splits even if this gift is not split. That's how your fund, campaign, fund, and appeal information comes over. Just like, yeah, that's how it always works. Those all exist in an object called the gift split. So since we have this gift split array, that's why Power Automate has said we have to do this at least once, but maybe more times to get the stuff in there. So we can only get one fund at a time. So we'll do that. So then when it runs, it does it twice because there were two funds in that gift split. Cool. So let's look at get a fund, and we'll look at the raw output. So again, we have a bunch of headers and computery things that I don't know what they are, and we don't need to because it doesn't matter for this purpose. And here's everything we could ever want to know about the fund, or at least what Razor's Edge has decided they'll tell us. There's probably more things in Razor's Edge that we could know about the fund, but this will give us the majority of the key points about the fund that we want to know. And really what we want to know is the description, right? That's the most important thing for these purposes, because I want to know the description of the fund. So, and now we found it. So we have in our compose, we can see that it's outputting biomechanics research building for this fund. And if we switch to this one, it's going to say the other split is the library restoration fund. Cool. So we've now gotten fund information for both of our funds in our gift. Stop me if anything is not making sense. Let me check my notes before I move on to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. Okay, so we did a session yesterday about data operations that shows you what to do in a situation like this. So we probably won't cover that in this session, but there is a way to take both of these funds and get them into, you know, one thing that's pretty, right, or something, right? So so check out our session on data operations to see more about how to deal with data that comes out like this. But now we have it. All right, we're going to move on, and we are going to find more about the constituent. So we're going to do get a constituent, because I still want more about the donor, right? So far in this flow, I don't have the donor's name, and I don't have her spouse name. I don't have really anything. So let's do get a constituent and see what we find. So we're going to do the same thing here with our little dynamic content lightning bolt. We're going to look for an ID. Now, when you're working with IDs in Power Automate, you're going to find there's a lot of them because, like we said, these IDs are how these tables are tied together, right? So the gift ID is the the first column in the gifts table, and somewhere in that row there's going to be a constituent ID so that we can tie the gift to a constituent, right? So you need to be sure that you're using the right ID. We have a gazillion IDs in here, and once you start to get more actions added, it's going to give you even more options that pop up here. So from our get a gift, we know we want the constituent ID, so we'll put that in there. And we're going to run it again. I should have thought of more jokes to tell while we waited for this. Is the weather nice everywhere? It's sunny.
I really think our job is just sitting here twiddling our thumbs as we wait for flows to finish running.
Half of my job is signing into Razor's Edge in different client environments, and the other half is waiting for Razor's Edge to save, or Power Automate to save. That is 100% accurate, Austin. Okay, so we've now gotten our constituent. Let's see what we can see here. I'm going to show raw outputs, and we'll get to our body where there's real stuff. Here's her ID. Yay, we already knew that. That was the only thing we knew about her from the gift, remember? 325. All right, so here's her address. Here's her date modified. She is not deceased. That's great. And now we know that her name is Temperance and that she's a woman. This is great. So here are her phones. Also in new view, guys, this is weird, but you can scroll all the way down, but then you have to move this scroll bar down to see the bottom. I don't know, whatever. So now we know her name. We know this is Temperance Sawicki, and we have found her spouse. So his name is Brendan Yu. And we also, let's say, for the sake of argument, that we really want to know if he's alive, and we can't tell that from this, right? All we know is his name. We have his ID, we have his name, and he is the head of household. But we're still missing that. And we're also looking for constituent codes, right, for this donor. So let's search for constituent. Want to see what's in there. Constituent ID, that is it. So we don't have any constituent codes here in our get a constituent data. So we're going to have to do another step to get that. And we're still going to have to probably do more to find more about the spouse. Checking my notes. Give me a minute. All right. So we're going to do her constituent codes next. Ready for that? Any questions before I do that?
No, the only question we've got so far is there's someone asking a specific thing outside of the parameters of our demonstration. So if you're able to get through this with a little time to spare, we have a off the cuff, can you show me how to do this question?
Awesome. We'll see. I think we will. Okay, so list constituent codes is the name of the action that I want. That is in our Blackbaud Razor's Edge NXT constituents connector. It's right here, so we're going to click that. And we're going to do the same thing we did before with our dynamic content. And in this case, we're going to use the ID from get a constituent because I know that is my donor. We could also use our constituent ID from get a gift because that should be the same number, but we'll use this one because we're going to. So we're going to get constituent codes. And give me 1 second. All right, and as you will know, constituent codes are an array. We're going to add another compose here because I want to write down the constituent codes to show you what happens when you do this. So we don't know what the constituent codes are yet, But Power Automate knows that the response to this is going to be an array of some kind. Even if there's 0 or 1 things in it, that's the data type, it's going to be an array. So I'm going to compose the constituent code just to show you what happens. Again, we magically have a for each because it knows that there might be a zillion of these. So it's going to create a loop so that it can write down each constituent code one at a time. And again, check out data operations for things like select or filter array to get these down into a kind of more reasonable format, right? But let's test this and see if we can find out what our donors' constituent codes are. We think one of them is probably board member because that is the gift constituency, but you never do know, do you? All right, so let's look at the data that comes out of our list constituent codes. It's doing this thing. Give it a second. I clicked on something before it was done loading. Freaked it out. Okay. Here is the data from our list constituent codes. So ignoring the computery stuff at the top, we'll scroll all the way down to the bottom to the body. And what it gives you, the list constituents action gives you a count, which says 2. We have 2 constituent codes, and then the value, which is the array of constituent codes. Cool, right? So again, this stuff all is mostly comprehensible by our brains, right? But this is a little different than how it looks in Razor's Edge. So I don't want you to freak out, but I do want you to be aware of what these things are. So ID is always the kind of base record. So this, I asked it for constituent codes, and it's giving me this ID, which means this is the ID of the constituent code. You cannot see that anywhere in Razor's Edge. I don't know of a place. I guess maybe you can. So if somebody knows how to do that, let me know. But I don't think you can see the behind the scenes system record ID of the individual constituent code row on a constituent record anywhere in the graphical user interface Razor's Edge, right? So this is something that you can use in Power Automate to update particular constituent codes, but you can't really see it in Razor's Edge. I don't think it's even a thing in like import or anything, not sure. But constituent ID, we know 325 is Temperance Wiki. The date added, also something that I don't think you can see in Razor's Edge, and date modified, something I don't think you can see in Razor's Edge. So that's kind of cool. You can actually see when things were added and changed. Here's the actual constituent code. So this part is the part we recognize, right? Board number. And yes, we expected this to be here, and it is. Yay. Inactive is false, and I don't actually even know what that means because I haven't played with that field, so I'm not sure what that is. And then it has a start date. So this one started in March of 2000. And another thing, which we can see in Razor's Edge, right? And there's sometimes also an end date. And then another thing that we don't have in Razor's Edge is this sequence, which shows which order the constituent codes exist in on the constituent record. So some new stuff in here that you don't have access to in Razor's Edge that might be interesting. But then also all the normal stuff that you do know. And you'll notice, like, if something doesn't exist, it just doesn't show up. So this code has a start date, but no end date. This code has neither a start date nor an end date, right? So, so this is what you get back when you ask for constituent codes. And I love it. So we found them. She's a board member and she's a major donor, which is not entirely unexpected since she's made a $25,000 gift. So let's do one more thing. We still have not found whether her spouse is alive. So let's just say for fun that I want to know, you know, something else about her spouse. So we're going to go see if we can find more about him. So we're going to do this with get a constituent. Now, get a constituent works with both full constituents and partial, you know, non-constituent relationship type records in Razor's Edge. Those both have system record IDs. So I'm going to type get a constituent and premium to get this little guy down here. And if you recall from looking at Temperance's get a constituent return, there was a spouse in there, right? So her spouse ID is in there. So the spouse ID is going to be the system record ID of the spouse record. So we can use that to get his constituent record. And we will.
Stacy, you should rename your actions.
Thank you. Austin is amazing at this and I'm terrible at it, but especially since we now have 2 get a constituents in this flow, we got to change one or we're going to not remember what they are, right? And while I'm at it, since I have just done this, I'm going to change this one to spouse and I'm going to change this one to donor or something like this so that I know what I'm looking at. Because, for example, let's write down something about our spouse and we're going to say spouse deceased. And we're going to go to our dynamic content and we now have 2 get a constituent. So if I search for deceased, I'm going to have get a constituent spouse here and get a constituent donor here. And if I had not changed the names of those, this one would say get a constituent 1 and this one would say get a constituent, and I would have to attempt to remember which was which is not what I want, right? So yes, renaming actions, always advised. It is a gift to your future self. So we're just going to put his deceased information in here. And we'll run it. And then I think we'll know all the things that we set out to find today.
All
and then we
Stacey, I've got another question for you while this is running.
Okay.
What happens if the spouse is a non-constituent? What do you get back? Is it different?
Yep. Great question. If the spouse is a non-constituent, we will get back less information. So it will have all the things that the regular relationship record has. This one, I'm pretty sure is a constituent, but check this out. So our compose, I'm clicking too many times. Our compose has written down spouse deceased false. So that means our spouse is alive. And I'm pretty sure this guy's a constituent. So let's look at hang on. Do you see my cursor flashing like that? I don't know why it's doing that. It's freaking out. I'm going to give this a second.
We're on a live demo and it's testing our patience.
Right. I'm going to give this another second. So the way that you tell if a record is a constituent in in query, right, is you say, is this the constituent ID blank, right? So partial records will have a system record ID, but they will not have a lookup ID. So system record ID is called the same thing in, well, it's not. So system record ID is called constituent ID in Power Automate, and constituent ID from Razor's Edge is called lookup ID in Power Automate. So sorry, I did not name them. If I had, they wouldn't match. Oh, it's not showing me. This is so annoying. I was going to show you let's see if we can, how do I get to new or old? What is happening?
I would say, so go to edit, or up at the top, in the URL, you have v3 equals true, change that to v3 equals false and refresh your page.
All right, let's try this and see if it'll show us an old view, and then we can see Brendan's information there. Maybe. Oh, I didn't keep my flow run. Let's go back. All right, here it is. Now let's see which view it gives us and if it will show me the data. All right, set a spouse. Yay, now we're cooking. Okay, so it'll show you if it's a non-constituent, it's going to show you a lot of the same information, right? Because non-constituents also have addresses. They also have date added and modified. They have deceased. They won't have a fundraiser status, right? Because non-constituents can't be fundraisers. They probably won't have this. They won't have inactive, but they will have most of these things. And if we go through all of this data and we can look for a lookup ID, and he does have one, which means this guy is definitely a full constituent. But otherwise, all the other stuff that is common to constituents and non-constituents will show up here. So if he wasn't a constituent, he wouldn't have any of this stuff, right? And the other stuff that only constituents have. But he would have all the names
there's some of the search actions. I think maybe like the enhanced search action will return is a constituent, and that will return a Boolean true false. So there's different returns from different actions where you can tell, but the lookup ID is a good good one across the board. If it has it, it's a full constituent. If it doesn't, then it's not.
Yes. Are there any questions at this point?
Yes, so we have a number of questions about pledges. How do you get to pledge information from payment gifts?
You guys would ask me that because I don't know that right off the top of my head. Okay.
If you, in our sandbox, if you go to Roy Kent, he has a couple pledges and payments.
So and I'm also going to have to go to the Sky API documentation, this one, right?
Well, you can, if you start with a payment, then you can just utilize the linked gift ID to get to the pledge information to then figure out the balance.
Let's do that. Find me a payment. Is this the wrong record? There it is. Okay. So if we do this, let's put this gift ID into our flow. And we'll see the gift data that comes out for this. And then we'll show you where the linked gift stuff is. There is also, I'll talk about this while I'm waiting for it to load, and if we have time, we'll go look at it. But there is in the gifts v2 area of the Sky API NXT documentation, there are some more actions related to pledges. So you can like get all the payments for a pledge, I think. But this way we should be able to just show you how to. It doesn't have a step for this failing. We'll ignore that and still get our gift. So in the get a gift, that time it didn't load as I expected, so I clicked this guy and we're going to go look at it over here. Check this box to be able to see things in a nice way. But since this is a payment, it's going to have this area in the gift output called linked gifts, and this is the system record ID of the pledge that is associated with this. So I will show you how to do that. So then we're going to put in right here another get a gift. And we're going to go to premium and find get a gift. And we're going to put in, we're going to search for linked gifts item. Ooh, is that what I want?
I just do ID maybe and see what comes up.
I think we need linked gift item because that one doesn't have anything in it with the ID. So that's going to create a for each, right? So that's going to give me, it's going to do a loop because you can apply a payment to more than one pledge, right? So let's compose the balance of this gift. So here's our payment, here's our pledge, and we're going to write down the balance of the pledge. So get a gift one is the pledge. So let me change that. And we'll find out what his pledge balance is. Austin, should I be moving more quickly on this? How many questions?
No, you're good because we have another 15 minutes to play. Oh, it didn't like it.
All right, so let's look at what it put in there. Oh, well, that's not overly helpful.
The primary reason why I don't like New Designer is error handling and seeing error messages and why an action failed.
So let's go ahead and the way that I would, if I get an error like this, what I do is I'll compose the data that I just told it to do something with. So I just had it do the linked gifts item. Oh, see, that's funny. That's probably not what I wanted. If I do this, it's going to give me that array. And what I want here, I want this for each to be on.
So when I do this in the old designer, it does not throw it into an array.
It doesn't?
No, that's the side effect of the new designer is it really, really likes to make arrays that shouldn't be there.
It definitely, new designer is very trigger happy with the apply to eaches, with the for each things. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to delete this because it didn't work. And let's do another. We need another get a gift to get the pledge balance because right now we have a payment and we want to know the related pledge balance. So let's see what's in linked gifts item or linked gifts. So if I put linked gifts in there, it's going to put the whole array in and it's going to say that's not a gift ID. And linked gifts item, I do expect it to do this because linked gifts is an array. Let's see if it works this way. I'm going to be annoyed if it does because we've done exactly the same thing in both views and it should work the same in both views. Just saying. I'm also going to be annoyed if it doesn't work because then I don't remember how to fix it and that feel like I'm losing my mind. So, all right, so that did work and it failed down here on the spouse, remember, because Roy Kent is not married, or at least in our database, we don't know who his spouse is.
He's
I don't
single.
remember.
The show didn't tell us who he ended up with, so he doesn't get a spouse.
So, okay, so here is our pledge, the pledge related to that gift. And if we find it, we can scroll around and there is a balance somewhere in here. Yes, and there is a balance on this pledge of $20,000. So that's how you do it. And apparently don't do it in New Designer because it doesn't work. Sorry. Next question.
Can you pull the next installment due into your flow from a pledge?
No.
And I think this one's a little bit more tricky, right? Like you can have pledge data in your flow and then you can go and get all of the installments, but you're going to have to do a little bit of work to point Power Automate in the right direction to recognize that some of the installments are already paid and therefore skip that one, go to the one that's unpaid, right? It's not as straightforward as the linked gift conversation.
It's not. To do it, we're going to send an HTTP request with the Sky API add-ins, and we're going to use a GET, which is back here, right? It tells us this is a GET, and we copy this part of the URL and put it in here, and we need to get the gift ID of the pledge, which is our get a gift 2, which I did not rename because my first version of this didn't work. So now it's renamed. So I need to put the pledge ID right here. And we're going to put that in, and then we'll show you what comes out. So there's no way directly to just say what's the next installment due, but we can go get all the installments, and then we could do filters or ask the data questions from there to say which one is in the future or which one has a balance greater than 0 or something like that, right? So let's see what we get back from this. Do you guys want me to switch back to New Designer?
Never.
I'm kind of surprised it's keeping it in old because a lot of times it will switch back to me forever. I'm so sorry I should stop that spouse thing so it quits doing that to us. Okay, so here's our pledge. Here is our pledge data. I'm going to pop this out anyway because I don't like this little tiny box. Okay, so here are the installments, pledge ID, start date, frequency. Installments, they all have their own ID, they have an amount, they have a date that it's scheduled, and then a balance. So if you wanted to know, there's also sequences, and then, the remaining pledge balance at the conclusion of that installment, that's fun. So if we wanted to know the next one in the future, we'd have to use a date filter, or if we wanted to know which payments or which installments still had a balance, we'd look here, right? So yeah, it's not easy, but it can be done.
I would honestly, I just throw a control in and have it loop through all the payments until it found the first one that had a balance, and that's your next payment to carry forward into your pledge reminder or what have you.
Yep. Yeah, which is cool, right? Automating pledge reminders instead of having to run them yourself. Pretty sweet. What other questions do we have?
Oh, you should show them how to do a static when you have it, you can you can force it to skip a step when you're testing. Like when you're running Roy, right? It keeps failing on that one thing. And there's a way to turn it off so that it succeeds while you're testing.
Yes. So one thing that I sometimes do when I'm testing is if I know that I want to only test the beginning of a flow, you can add a terminate. So since I didn't care about anything after this apply to each for that run, I could have put a terminate in here and said succeeded, right? And then it will ignore whatever is behind it and it just won't do any of this. So that's one method. The other thing you can do is when you're testing, especially if you're testing something that writes back to Razor's Edge, I use this a lot. You can do a static result. So you click this little slider guy and you just tell it, don't do whatever it is in this action, just tell the flow it succeeded and move on with your lives, right? So if I do this, let's get rid of this guy and run this flow, nothing will happen when it gets to this, and it will just compose nothing here, right? It'll compose spouse deceased because it won't have done this action. Static results are super, super useful when you are testing.
It's also important to know that if you import a template and you're seeing this little beaker symbol on actions, that's what it means, and why part of your flow might not be running correctly if you're anticipating that action to be doing something in your database.
Right. Yes. And you do, especially if you're using it when you're testing, you have to remember to turn it back on when you're done testing or it won't work. Ask me how I know. All right, so it got to that point, it took like a year to just do nothing, right? And then it composed spouse deceased with nothing because it hadn't gotten anything from this action.
Well, we don't have any more questions in the Q&A, so if you want to come back to our view, so you can see us again, and you're not flying blind.
I can go back to the rest of my slideshow. Yay. All right, let me show. There's not very much in it, but we'll show them. It'll be so fun. Okay. So I have to click share a lot of times. All right. So in our slide deck for today, we have the same resources that we shared yesterday, just because these are some of our most commonly shared things that have how-tos for most of the stuff that we do constantly every day of our life as we're doing fundraising automations in Power Automate and Razor's Edge. So check those out. If you want slides, please email me or Austin, and we will get these to you sometime in the next couple of days. I wasn't planning to share this flow with you because it doesn't really do anything, but if anybody wants it, I certainly can send you a template of this to upload into your environment, or you can just add all these actions and play around with the stuff that comes out.
Stacey, can you go back a slide?
Yeah, I don't know. Yes, I did it.
Nikki, if you send us an email, we can also just get you the whole slide deck, and then you don't have to type in all of these manually. We did have one other question come up from Wendy. Does this work on pledged payments that show as cash in Financial Edge? I'm testing on one and it doesn't show up, or it doesn't pull up. I don't really know about Financial Edge, so.
Yeah, I don't know either. I would check with that. I would expect if it's showing as cash, it's not tied to a pledge either in Razor's Edge or Financial Edge. So you may have to play around with that. And maybe look at another gift that you know is working and see what the data looks like on that one and then come back.
I'm gonna put our emails in chat.
Thank you. Perfect. Please do not leave without doing an evaluation of the session, everyone. Christy will throw that up. Maybe you've already done it. I don't know. I don't know how they work, but I don't think I get to do one, sadly. I don't get to vote for how awesome I am. But thank you all so much for coming. Please be in touch. Tell us all the cool stuff that you're learning how to do. I hope that you're all having a great dev days and learning a ton and getting a lot of ideas. That's what we're really here for. So yeah, anything else, Austin or Christy?
Nope. I think it's just the survey is left.
Awesome. All right.
Excellent. Okay. We really can't see what's going on
I know.
from the side of this, couldn't we?
Great. Awesome. Thank you all so much for being here. We'll see you at the rest of the conference.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.